Okay, what I would like you to do now is please take some notes on this because I think it'll be useful for you because although you can sit and listen to me and listen to recordings, taking notes will really burn it into your head. Before Tuesday's class, and I think I actually wrote down when I want you to send it to me. I want you to send me 4 questions for John Schwartz. Yes, I did. John Schwartz is going to visit our class on Tuesday, March 9th, when he'll respond to 4 thoughtful questions about his writing processes and or the pieces we'll read. Now, that's not exactly accurate. I want you to send me 4 questions by Sunday night. So you got a lot of time to do this, about 8 o'clock. You could do it right after class today, actually. John Schwartz is going to come to our class on Tuesday. I'm going to send him 4 questions from each of you. It could be more than 4, but thoughtful questions that will help you with your writing process. He will come to our class on Zoom and respond to your questions about our writing process, about your writing process. Then the prompt is going to be, the prompt is also in the email that I sent you. On March 25th, you have an essay due. It says hand in a 4 to 6 page essay that explains how John Schwartz's visit to our class helped you become a stronger writer, you personally. Now, for those of you who had me before, I don't know, has anybody who's been in my class before, did John Schwartz come to your class?
He came to mine.
It was Abby Sure.
Okay, Joss, he came, right, it was Abby Sure for you. Joss, John Schwartz came to your class?
Yes.
Okay, did you find his visit? And please give me the answer I'm begging for. Did you, was it useful?
Yeah.
Okay.
He answered, my questions, and then, I learned from us.
Was he a pretty good speaker?
Yeah, he was.
Much better than me. And I'm not, and I'm just saying that. I mean, I'll tell you that I'm handsomer than Dwayne Johnson, but John Schwartz talks better than me. Anyway, I'm trying to get you guys excited to meet John. So anyway, in addition to quoting in your paper, in addition to quoting Trimble's book, which is Writing with Style, quote, paraphrase, or summarize Schwartz's comments about writing in our class as well. Examples of his as well. How example? Oh wow, I got to rewrite this. Quote, paraphrase, or summarize Schwartz's comments about writing in our class, as well as examples of his prose, as you explain the ways his visit enlightened and inspired you as a writer. And I'm going to revise that. I mean, it's clear enough, but there are a couple of typos in there. Basically, what the paper is going to be is, here's how John Schwartz helped my writing get better. He talked about, like, if you say, oh, he talked about how he did research or how he edits his writing to make it more concise. And so you'll quote what Schwartz says. Then I want you to quote examples from his own writing. And I want you to quote Writing with Style. So you're going to have at least 3 things in your works cited page. Hey, Drew, did you just come into the class?
Yeah, I just got in.
Okay, that's fine. So you can look at the recordings for the earlier part, but what we're talking about now is John Schwartz's visit to class, which is going to be on Tuesday, and what you're going to have to write about it. And of course, I'm reading my in need of editing explanation of the prompt, which I just rewrote again today. But it's basically, that's what this is going to be adding up to. John Schwartz's visit and what he says will be a text. In other words, it'll be like something that you're going to take the words from and that you're going to include in your paper. So the first step of this is for me to give you like some sense of who John Schwartz is. So here are several of his books. One is called Short, which he wrote. John is very short. And this is a book which combines a lot of research about what it's like for short people in the world, what it's like for them to live. And John's from Texas, where it's like people are tall in Texas. He wrote this. His next book, Oddly Normal, which I have used in my 102 classes in the past. Students have read the entire book. And it's about, well, as the subtitle says, one family struggled to help their teenage son come to terms with his sexuality. And his son, who was in middle school at the time, tried to commit suicide, who was gay. And this book is about his son, but it's also about issues facing gay people in America at large. Very, very well written research book combined with memoir. And this is his latest book called This Is the Year I Put My Financial Life in Order. And for you business majors, this would probably be interesting to you, not to me interesting, but it's the blurb on the top says, with humor and stories, John Schwartz has written a book that can help anyone walk the path to financial security. So he's a very, very good writer. And just to give you a little of my relationship with John, Abby Scher, who came to my class, and Tina Kelly, who's come to my class, they're friends of mine. I'm very lucky to have met them. I teach their kids drums. That's how I knew them. John Schwartz, on the other hand, would ride the train from Maplewood to New York with me and my wife. I would get off in Newark and go to my office in Conklin Hall, and they would continue on to New York. And they haven't gone in since March 12th of last year. So it's getting crazy. But riding on the train with John Schwartz was an amazing experience, because I like hanging around smart people and just, learning from them. And John, and, we would talk about different things, and he was talking about the book he was writing. And interestingly, at the end of his book, he has acknowledgments and he gives shout outs to people. And he writes this, and this is so people actually believe I really know this guy. It says, thanks also to my commuter train buddy, John Strauss, who mentioned the connection between Engels and Dickens that helped me understand why I was quoting so many novels in my draft, and then to explain it. And it's funny, because he was talking about writing this book, and he would quote novels like, David Copperfield or Bleak House, Charles Dickens novels. And I said, oh yeah, because I studied literature, and I was saying how, Frederick Engels, who was one of the authors of Communist Manifesto along with Karl Marx, and Frederick Engels would talk about how if you really want to understand the economics that happened in England in the 19th century, you should read Charles Dickens. And anyway, it was like we just had this conversation, and he acknowledges me in the book. So yeah, famous, big shout out. But the other important thing you should know about John Schwartz is he was a student of John Trimble's at the University of Texas. And he was, I'll just say that, so you can ask him about what that was like to be John Trimble's student. Now, let's take a look at the text that I put on Blackboard on Canvas under John Schwartz's writing. I want to look at the first one and the second one. These two pieces, if you go on modules, John Schwartz's writing, it should be right at the top. I moved it up to make it easy for you. I asked John if he had anything that he wanted you guys to read, and he said, well, I think these should be interesting for your students. So these were his picks. He's written a lot of stuff, but he chose these. So I thought that was very cool and interesting. So let's look at the first one. And, we were going to do, I, of course, printed it out. And let's do what we always do. Read the end first. So make sure you get to the John Schwartz's writing module, the first entry, and scroll down to the last page. Is there a picture of a lady at the end, by the way?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't mean to put her there. And when I printed it out, look, my computer printed out this beautiful picture of her. I don't care about you, lady. And I used up all that color on my printer. That's okay. Who would like to read starting at the next to last paragraph with the words Fresno resident?
I could read.
Okay.
Fresno resident Katie Taylor applauded the state's work in her city. She is 75 and is the caregiver for her 51-year-old daughter, who has Down syndrome. The increase in truck traffic is maddening, she said. It's just trucks coming and going. She first found out about the warehouse complex planned for her area when union activists came knocking on her door. We didn't know we could have a say in any of this, she said.
Very good. Now, I am always saying to writers, not just students, make the beginning and ending dramatic. Do something dramatic. this is a perfect example of it. Now, back to like not trying to read for the main idea or anything like that, making a movie of it. Do you guys understand like what people with Down syndrome look like and what that is?
Yeah.
Okay, so, I mean, it's a congenital, I mean, you're born with it, condition, and, you do not evolve mentally past a certain age. And, when somebody says Down syndrome, very often you associate him with children. This woman with Down syndrome is 51 years old. It's not a child. Her mother is 75. Now, we don't know if Katie Taylor is white or black or thin or fat or, nothing. But if you make a movie of it, picture this as a 75-year-old woman who's the caregiver for a 51-year-old. And the interesting thing is that John Schwartz is doing something, and again, as you're reading this like a writer, he's using quotations, but he's also using paraphrase. So read that sentence again that starts, the increase in truck traffic is maddening. And Satya, and everybody pay attention to what part of this is John Schwartz paraphrasing and what part is direct quote. So read that again, please.
From like Fresno?
No, from what it says the increase in truck traffic is maddening, she said.
Oh, okay. The increase in truck traffic is maddening, she said. It's just trucks coming and going.
Right. So which part of that is a paraphrase? Not her exact words.
The increase in truck traffic is maddening?
Yeah, she said that. Now, you would say, well, no, she didn't say exactly that. She could have said something else, but what you have to trust is that John Schwartz, who's a very, I mean, the fact that I know him, whatever, but he's a very reputable person. He's not going to make something up. So whatever she said, maddening, I'm sure, is exactly what she was implying. And then you get the quote, and now read the quote, and these are her exact words.
It's just trucks coming and going.
Right. Does that have the sound of like something that this lady would actually have said?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And yeah, it does. And here's the thing. It's like really good writers do this. They combine paraphrase and summary and quotes, just like you guys can do. It's like, when do I quote? When do I paraphrase? And it's a balance. How you learn to do that is by reading stuff like this. I mean, there's no shortcut. Okay. And then read again the next paragraph, Satya. And again, pay attention again to all the information you're getting, but also the use of the quotation. Go ahead.
She first found out about the warehouse complex planned for her area when union activists came knocking on her door. We didn't know we could have a say in any of this, she said.
Very good. Now, that's the end of the article. And you're like, we didn't know we could have a say. And you're like, well, have a say in what? But you'll see now what the whole point of this article is. And again, what I'll just tell you is John is writing about a man named Xavier Becerra, who, by the way, is Joe Biden, President Biden's nominee to be the head of Health and Human Services, which is a cabinet post, who believes that poor people should not be getting screwed by having really bad environmental conditions laid on them constantly. So anyway, when she says, we didn't know we could have a say in any of this, it ends with a real human being talking about the effects that things have. Okay, so Emily, did you want to read? I couldn't tell. You got to turn on your mic, and also if
Yeah, I can read.
do you're sideways.
Yeah, it's my phone.
Okay, I like it because it's kind of making me like nauseous to look at you.
Mhm.
Not you, but I'm like. Okay, start at the beginning, please. First, you can read the title. Xavier.
Xavier Becerra brings environmental justice to forefront.
Okay, and then start with the words Martha.
Martha Romeo felt that she had to send her daughters to safety.
Okay, that's one sentence. It's a whole paragraph. Is that okay? Yeah. And
Yeah.
for you guys, you're like, oh no, I can't do that. So get over it. Okay, read the next paragraph, please.
She had seen air pollution grow worse in recent years as the truck traffic near her San Bernardino neighborhood increased, so she made the difficult decision to send her 3 daughters to live with her mother, whose home is farther from the worst of the fumes and dust from the unending parade of trucks moving to and from nearby warehouses. Unfortunately, we cannot keep them in an air bubble, she said.
Okay, now again, look at the conciseness of the writing. First of all, you got a lot of information, but let's just get back to it. This article begins and ends with a person. It happens to be a person who's a mother who happens to be taking care of people. And that's not an accident. You know, there are many people that are in this neighborhood that he could have talked to, you know, oh yeah, I'm going to talk to the crack dealer down the street. No, he's specifically talking to somebody who is trying to do something good. And here's this woman has to send her daughters, and notice how concise that sentence is. Had to send them to safety. I mean, it's right to the point. And then if you want to make a movie of it, if I said to you, okay, film what this looks like. So she's talking about the truck traffic increasing, and you get this idea of the worst of the fumes and dust from the unending parade of trucks moving to and from nearby warehouses. So when I used to go visit a guy who has been detained by ICE down at the Newark port, if you've ever gone down to the port of Newark, it's constant trucks back and forth in the airport. It's so polluted, it's crazy, but that's what you would see there. Okay. Now, again, there's a lot of research involved in John Schwartz's writing, but notice when I asked you to write about Nicholas Carr, like what's effective about the way he presents research. Let's continue to read, Emily, and think about all the research that went into the next sentence and how easy it is to read and understand. Go ahead, Emily.
A coalition of local organizations is leading the fight against the expansion of the San Bernardino International Airport to accommodate Amazon's burgeoning logistics needs, with a complex that will bring more flights, more warehouses, and even more truck traffic and pollution to her area. The coalition has an unusual ally, Xavier Becerra, the Attorney General for the state of California, and the choice of President-elect Joseph R. Biden Jr. to run the Department of Health and Human Services.
Right. Okay, very good. Now, a lot of information there, guys, as you know, and it's like you have to come back up and say, wow, what's all this? Just so you know why he's called President-elect Biden, this was written in December, so it was before Biden was sworn in January as president. But the links that you see there where it says a coalition of local organizations where, you know, it's underlined, if you click on those links, they would take you to New York Times articles, which you probably can't read because there's a paywall. But it's all, you know, stuff that's all information that's factually accurate. It's not, you know, like rumors or, you know, this is all stuff you can look up. And if you get to the next paragraph, let's see who would like to read that. Somebody who hasn't read yet.
I'll read.
Okay, Ken, go ahead.
A coalition.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, no. Nope. My bad. Next paragraph.
Oh, if we were concerned. All right.
Opposing, right?
Opposing. Am I on the wrong thing? No. Oh, opposing the airport expansion?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm good. Opposing the airport expansion plan is the work of the Environmental Justice Bureau, Mr. Becerra, created in 2018, the first of its kind. It focuses the unequal effect pollution and other forms of environmental damage have on health in the most vulnerable communities. While local officials understandably want to promote economic development, the Bureau created by Mr. Becerra is saying that the environmental justice needs to be part of the equation. Okay,
very good. Now, a couple things just to get straight as far as the amount of information you're getting. It says that this Environmental Justice Bureau was created by Mr. I'm not sure how to say his name. You say Becerra, either one. It was created by him in 2018. It's the first of its kind. I mean, this guy is an innovator. there was never something called the Environmental Justice, Bureau. And then it says its focus, and now you have a colon. And again, as you're reading, the way you learn how to use things like punctuation is you notice, oh, that's a colon, because it's explaining the first part of the sentence. And here's what the point of this organization is. The unequal effect pollution and other forms of environmental damage have on health in the most vulnerable communities. Now, it doesn't use the word the poorest communities or communities of color. Vulnerable means, and that because in fact, that's what they are, but vulnerable means that they can be hurt. And you guys know that if you're poor and you don't have, well, I was going to say you don't have money. Hello, it's pretty redundant. You're a lot more vulnerable than people who have money. Okay. And again, it says, while no local officials understandably want to promote economic development, the Bureau created by Mr. Becerra is saying that environmental justice needs to be part of the equation. And what John Schwartz is putting in there, it's very subtle in a way, but he's saying, yeah, people want jobs. It's like, well, wait a minute, you're going to tell us not to build warehouses. And all it's saying is we want it to be part of the equation when you're figuring stuff out. How are you hurting vulnerable people? And then Ken, read the next paragraph, please, which is a quote. I'm sorry, go ahead.
If we are concerned about environmental degradation, we should be concerned about the people who are hit first and worst, Mr. Becerra said in an interview.
Right. Now, when he says said in an interview, that's the only time he's going to have to say that, because now when you get the quotes for the rest of the paper, it doesn't need to say he said in an interview. Just like with you guys, you don't have to say Michael Weinrip says in an article. It's like, no, once you realize that John Schwartz interviewed him. Okay. And that's a very telling quote. I mean, I'm sure he said a lot of things, but that's a real important one. So now yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just going to say I have a question.
Mhm.
I know, like, I don't see a beginning quotation. Like you see how.
I think I left it out. That's my bad.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what happened, and Layla, that's, you're right. What happened was I copied it out of a New York Times. I copied it onto a Word document and probably missed that quotation mark because I saw the same thing. I'm like, wait, it's not a quote. So yes, there should be a quotation mark there.
Okay.
Good eye, good eye. Okay. So the next part, because we're running short on time, I just want to point out that it gives a lot of research about, I'll just read it really quickly. A lot of research about who this guy is, and not just him, but also Joe Biden. It says concern over the environment and climate change has long been a part of the character of the Golden State. Golden State is California. Its leaders have worked to limit auto emissions, despite efforts by the Trump administration to curb its ability to do so. And the state is calling for a transition from internal combustion engines to electric for cars and trucks in coming years. And when you see that despite efforts by the Trump administration underlined, you can look it up and read actual facts that yes, the Trump administration is trying to take away limits on pollution. It's a fact. It's not, an opinion. Those issues and the impact of pollution on vulnerable populations promise to be a prominent part of the agenda for Mr. Biden as well. He named his $2 trillion climate proposal the plan to secure environmental justice and equitable opportunity in a clean energy future, which set a goal that 40% of all clean energy spending would go to disadvantaged communities. Vice President-elect Kamala Harris, during her tenure as California's Attorney General, pursued a number of cases dealing with the disproportionate effect of environmental issues on disadvantaged communities. As a senator, she introduced the Climate Equity Act with Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a bill to focus on the environmental health of low-income communities of color in efforts to reduce emissions of greenhouse gases that are causing climate change, etc. All of this is based on research that John Schwartz did, and it's a lot of information. It's really, really concise, but it's being framed around this person who is very, very dedicated to trying to help vulnerable people. The article begins and ends with vulnerable people. And, it's for you guys, art, essays have beginnings, middles, and ends. But I just want to point out the beginning and the end are very concise, not long, but dramatic examples of the people who are being affected by this, rather than just beginning and ending with, kind of general statements like, it's bad to have pollution in poor neighborhoods. It starts with human beings, so that you see, here's a woman says, I had to send my 3 kids to not live with me because they can't breathe the air. And the other one saying, after, if we get to the very last paragraph again, you get the woman, who's got the 51-year-old daughter with Down syndrome. And the last quote was where she says she first found out about the warehouse complex planned for her area when union activists came knocking on her door. And the quote is, "We didn't know we could have a say in any of this." And it's such a dramatic quote, because it's, here's this woman figuring, well, what can you do? Nobody's helping us. And here comes this guy, Xavier Becerra, saying, no, we want to help you. And we want you to fight. So anyway, we're out of time at 12:49, but please read this article and also the other article, which is about a woman who is a brilliant scientist who's also working on trying to have more diversity at Columbia University in terms of, the people studying science there. But Tuesday, John Schwartz is going to come to our class. I told him to probably come. Our class starts at 11:30, maybe like 11:45, so that anybody straggling can come in and check him out. But it's very exciting that he's going to be here, and he's doing it because he's just a good guy. So let me stop the recording.